Welcome to this year's 31 and 31, the new Breed edition. I am very excited to be talking about these movies and to be doing this with you and everybody because Halloween is my favorite time of year. I get this new energy to do creative things and just go all out with you guys. And the list of movies that we have here are one of a kind. I love them. I've seen quite a few of them a number of times, and some I needed to revisit. What the hell was that? Sorry, I thought I heard something outside. Felt like somebody was watching me. And with this list, I am really excited about the list of directors we're highlighting. Some of them are my favorites. For example, Mike Flanagan, Fede Alvarez, amongst others. So I'm really excited that we're focusing on the new caretakers of horror versus the old that we've already covered many times. So again, I'm really excited about this countdown. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe, hit the like button, and let's do this, okay? Let's launch 31 on 31, a new Breed 2024. Woo! Coming in at 31 is The Blackcoat's Daughter, which is a complete, as they say in the critic space, a slow burn, which means it's fucking boring. I have my notes here from watching it 2 months ago, and I have 58 minutes in, and not a goddamn thing has happened. The movie is about a young woman who loses her parents in a car accident when she's very young, and she looks for a parental figure, and she finds one in the devil himself. Beelzebub, Lord of the Flies, Mephistopheles, that guy. Anyway, the film is very slow, not much goes on. It's really a 30-minute story expanded into an hour and a half. Again, 58 minutes in is just a bunch of walking around in hallways, a lot of implied sounds. You don't know what's going on. You're thinking, what's maybe her parents' side? And ultimately you find out that's what happened. There really isn't much to say about this movie because it's like a 30-minute story, more or less, that they expanded into a 90-minute movie. And yeah, there's some twists and turns. I don't want to go into spoilers in the end, but it's really just a lackluster ending, but it's all about people coping with a tragic event and not dealing with it, trying to find a distraction instead of facing the reality of what happened. That's all this movie is. It could have been a Tales from the Crypt episode. 30 minutes. It didn't have to be 90 minutes, and it sucked. That's at 31. Coming in at 30 is Jordan Peele's follow-up to Get Out, which is Us. Well, I will admit, when I first saw this movie, I gave it a positive review. I love the ambiguity of it. I love how it was just very layered with all these social constructs and undertones about, society, consumerism. And I enjoyed it the first time I saw it, and that was back in 2019. But again, I saw it again for the 31 on 31, and I just found it very lackluster, very pretentious. I get what he's trying to say, but it's so heavily layered. You really have to dive into the material to try to dissect what he's trying to say. And I get it, consumerism takes over us and we lose a part of ourselves. So the old true essence of us is kind of hidden away and separated. But I'll be honest, seeing it a second time, I still don't understand how people can more or less be tethered to these underworlds, to the surface. I mean, what happens when you get into a car? I get how it works at the fairgrounds, or at that Santa Monica Beach. I get that riding rides and walking around, that can kind of tie to what people are doing down there, but I don't get how the whole country's kind of connected that way. It doesn't make any sense. So again, I get its symbolism, I get what it's trying to say in a very layered way, but again, it's just not for me. It's not for me. Again, I enjoyed it the first time in 2019. The second time, it just wasn't for me. I enjoy this surreal feeling of it. I like the Twilight Zone. I know he's heavily inspired by that. There are some creepy imagery. For example, the scene where the father has a bat and he sees a family, the duplicates or the doppelgangers of themselves sitting at the end of the driveway. That's pretty creepy. Some of the kill shots are very Hitchcockian, if I can say that as well. But again, overall, the film, it just doesn't live up for a second viewing. I get the ambition, all those other items, but again, it just wasn't for me. So that's why I have Us coming in at 30. All right, now coming in at 29 is Raw. I had never seen it before, but I actually am a big fan of this director. I cannot pronounce her name. I know it's Julie. But what I appreciate about her is her vision, because I read her Wikipedia, and she actually grew up with two parents, obviously, but they were doctors and physicians. One was an optometrist and one was a surgeon. And she grew up with the perspective of the human body just being flesh, just being meat, and like more or less we're just sacks of meat with the nervous system that has a consciousness. That's all we are, and that's how she sees a human body. So I love that kind of unique, like there's no emotional tether to the human body. I love that vision that she sees, and it's very evident in her movies. And with Raw, we have a film of these two young girls who go to dental school, which I had no idea dental school was that kind of rowdy, but apparently it is. But they are coming into their own, they're becoming young women, but they're actually discovering that they have a craving for flesh. So more or less the movie is just a metaphor for young adults coming into their own and finding out they have needs and wants and maybe conflicted with the norms of society. But again, it's present, and how do they deal with that? So I do like that social commentary placed in kind of like this morbid space. And then we have the true reveal at the end, which I don't want to say, but she definitely inherited that thirst or that craving from one of her parents, which is a cool little twist, but it makes sense. But again, I enjoyed this movie for what it was. Again, I can't wait to see more from this director. It's a unique vision. I'm a fan of hers. So again, I have Raw coming in at 29. I think that's a spoiler. I think I just spoiled the ending for you. Sorry. Spoilers. Now coming in at 28 is the second film for my new favorite director, Julie, and it's Titane. It came out in 2021. More or less, it's a movie about a young woman with a titanium plate fitted in her head. She's got this murderous intent in her, and her mind embarks on this bizarre journey of identifying an unconditional love when she's forced to go on the run and pose as a man. There is a ton of metaphors in this movie, and it has a scene in the movie that I shit you not, I never thought I'd see. It's a woman actually having sex with a car. Yes. It's a standard. At the very heart of this movie, it's two individuals who are in need of love. The main protagonist, this killer, she grew up in a home where her parents weren't giving her attention. She had a father who was just totally dismissive of her and didn't want anything to do with her. So after a hilarious murder scene where people just keep showing up, she's on the run and she finds that there's a missing poster of this young man who's missing, and that happened to be the child of a fire chief. Who's looking for her son, and she poses as his son, and they more or less connect with each other, and they both know what they're doing. He knows this is not his son, but he's such in desperate need to fill this hole that he has within him because he's lost a child, and he sees it in him. Again, it plays with a lot of metaphors of the human body, with this titanium plate slowly consuming this actress in the movie. She's got like the steel skin kind of like surfacing and ripping through the flesh. It's very symbolic. What it means, I have no fucking idea, but it is really cool to watch. So again, if you're into that weird shit and you just want to check something out that maybe means something metaphorical to you, check it out. But again, I really appreciate this director's vision, and I'm looking to see more of what she can do. And that is Titane at 28. Coming in at 27 is Abigail, and I can tell you right now, I know for a fact Cody's pissed off right now.
And those are the reasons why Zack Snyder is an incredibly overrated storyteller. Moving on to our next topic, we got a question for... I have a sudden feeling something very bad is happening somewhere. Yes, I detect a little bitch in the Force.
Abigail is a follow-up to Ready or Not, which in my opinion is the much better film, and we'll talk about that film much later. It's further down the line of this ranking, but when I was watching Abigail, I enjoyed it. It was fun, but halfway through it, I'm like, this is the same damn movie as Ready or Not. It takes place in a mansion. It's a cat and mouse story. There's a wealthy organizer behind it all. One of the main characters is wearing a white dress. Everybody explodes at the end, and the protagonist walks away covered in blood. It's the same shit. It's the same movie. It's the same thing. It's just shifting things around. It's like Hollywood. We need another doll movie. You know, that people love Chucky. What about Megan 2.0? Yeah, throw another one of those. It's the same shit. It's just like, I get it. It's a beautiful movie. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's fun for a one-time watch, but for it to get any higher than 27, nah. Abigail's loaded with surprises, but again, once I saw the similarities to Ready or Not, I kind of knew what was going to happen, and lo and behold, it kind of more or less followed the same footsteps and same beats, and then it ended the same way. One person walking away at the end, covered in blood, and I'm like, hopefully they'll come up with a different platform or something completely. I think they're making Ready or Not 2, as a matter of fact, so there you go. Hey, if the formula works, why change it? Why break it? I know I fucked that up. Well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's why I have Abigail at 27. 27? 27. Cody's pissed. Coming in at 26, I have Crawl. Yes, I believe Crawl is better than Abigail. In this movie, you have a woman who's trying to look for her father. He lives in Florida, and there is a hurricane on the way, which is more or less very reminiscent to what we've seen in the news over the past couple of weeks. So everybody who's watching from Florida, my heart goes out to you. Everybody in North Carolina, in that whole area, again, my thoughts are with you sincerely. But she's looking for her father, who again is going through a low moment in his life, and she finds him unconscious in the basement while this hurricane's on the way. Everything's flooding, and while she's trying to get him out, she's encountered by CGI alligators. Now, I have to admit, the concept for this whole movie is very different. I mean, there's been a few alligator movies out there that have done well, but we've never had a close quarter tension movie where she's trying to outwit the alligator and save her father who's injured. So I get the originality with this. It was a fun watch, but for me, it's one of those films that's a one-time watch. I have no really desire to ever see it again. But again, it was cool. There were some suspenseful moments in the movie. But like I said, it's a one-time watch for me. I enjoyed it. But again, it's clever, and I think they're making a Crawl 2. I hope I'm wrong. But that's what I have coming in at 26. Honestly, didn't we say all we need to say with Crawl 1? Why do we need a Crawl 2? More gators. Now, coming in at 25 is the new Halle Berry movie, Never Let Go. I just saw this, believe it or not, last night on Amazon. I wasn't one of the privileged few that saw it at Fantastic Fest. I'm just kidding. And I have to admit, it was okay. I mean, you have a concept that we've all seen before. You have a parent taking care of two kids. In the post-apocalyptic world, something has happened, something has overrun the world, and it's just them trying to survive with the elements out there. I mean, this time they're not zombies, this time they're not the fungi like in The Last of Us. It's evil, and the house is built on holy ground or built by a holy man, and the house itself is what's keeping them safe from the evil that's out there. And anytime they go foraging or scavenging, they have to tie themselves to the house, so the base of the house, to keep them protected from the evil at all times. If they let go of the rope, then there may be some evil factors that come about and to kill them. And once they're infected, they'll kill their family. So how about 23 minutes in, I kind of got the concept, and me and my wife were watching it, and she goes, yeah, this is what's going on. It looks like a paranoid schizophrenia or like mental health issues, and there's really nothing out there. And it's kind of left up to the viewer to interpret. I mean, there is a clear ending on what happens. I mean, you have a clear outlook on what's going on. So you will get a lot of your questions answered, but there are some elements here and there that are just left up to interpretation. So I'll leave it at that. But again, I thought it was a great film. The kids were great actors within it. Halle Berry put on a pretty scary performance as this disturbed mother protecting her kids on the verge of starving. And again, there's some tense scenes in there involving animals, which in my opinion was the most stressful part of the movie. Everything else, I didn't give a damn, but that scene, I was just like, don't do it. But anyway, the movie was okay. Thumbs up. One-time view, I'm not going to buy, but again, that's why I have Never Let Go at 25. Coming in at 24 is Maxxxine, the last installment to the Ty West Mia Goth trilogy. Now, I have to admit, I did give it a positive review on my channel. You can check it out there if you want, or there. I can't tell which one, but in hindsight, I saw it again on Max, and it is kind of like a letdown. I have to be honest. It doesn't have the same energy, I guess, the creative energy that Pearl and X had, because again, from what I understand, they were making X and they just decided on a whim to go ahead and make Pearl the same location. So there's a consistent energy within those two movies, and here you can feel the break between those other films. And I get each movie had its own unique take with the genre. Pearl with the golden age of Hollywood, then you had X with the 70s slasher, and then Maxxxine was an 80s giallo type of killer story. But again, the character of Maxxxine was a little bit disappointing. She didn't really have any agency in the entire movie. She would just kind of like, events would happen and she'd react. She had no really say in whether that was going to happen or not. And she just really felt disconnected as a character. I get she's been through a lot of trauma. I said that in my review, but again, in hindsight, it just didn't land for me. So again, it's kind of a disappointment. But again, that's why I have Maxxxine at 24. Coming in at 23 is Infinity Pool, and this one I actually really enjoyed. I really enjoyed that Mia Goth is taking a lot of chances with her roles and going to the extremes. I mean, the way this one ended, I was all on board with that. If you've been following me, you know I like that freaky stuff. And this movie had a ton of that. The concept of the movie is just that rich people go to this particular country where there's consequences if they break the law, but instead of facing the death penalty themselves, they clone themselves, and that person is then killed, and they can do whatever they want in this country. So it's just reckless behavior, lots of sex, and yes, there's tons of sex. But again, I am all on board for these type of movies that take chances and tell stories that are outside the norm for Hollywood movies and show that much nudity. I feel like there's not any strong rated R movies in Hollywood anymore, like in the 80s, 70s, and maybe some of the early 90s. You know, like Basic Instinct, Fatal Attraction. We don't see that anymore in modern day Hollywood, and I love that we're kind of going back to that. You know, that really risque type of storytelling and adult content. So again, I loved it. Very subjective, a lot of cool imagery, and that's why I have Infinity Pool at 23. Coming in at 22 is Dead Silence. I only saw this once. That was a couple months back, and I really don't remember much, so I'm just going to default to my notes here, so just bear with me. The first creepy doll in a James Wan movie. Okay, this is a precursor to Annabelle. Annabelle was introduced in The Conjuring 2013. It was written, directed by James Wan, and again, I have a lot of notes here. Amazing transitions, amazing visuals, very atmospheric, creepy sets, very authentic looking, great angles, great camera work, clever twist at the end that I didn't see coming. But yeah, that's one common thing that I love about James Wan, even if it's Malignant and all these other movies. Visually, they have a style, and it's very unique compared to other horror movies. He pays a lot of attention to the atmosphere of the movie, the tone of it, and just the transitions and layouts of every movie differ depending on the psyche of the protagonist. So again, I loved it. I mean, visually it's great, but I don't remember much of it. But again, it's a James Wan film, and I think this is the first film prior to the Conjuring films, I think, that kind of set the bar on that visual flair that he has. So again, I enjoyed it. So, again, I don't remember much about it, just other than dolls and that twist ending. But it was pretty cool. Killer Dolls. James Wan. 22. Okay, coming in at 21 is Nope. Actually, I enjoyed this movie. And again, Jordan Peele, he's got a very surreal Twilight Zone type of look when it comes to his movies and themes. It's heavily layered, and you have to go write a college essay and watch like 4 or 5 YouTube video essays on the video to understand the topic of what he was trying to convey. And Nope, again, you have a horse rancher that's worked in Hollywood, and there's this cloud that seems to be alive that's eating animals. And it's a story, I guess, about man versus nature, and man wanting to control nature but not able to do that because you can't. And there's consequences in that behavior. Is that it? But again, it is fun and well acted, and it's a simple concept in my opinion compared to Us, which is, again, it's just too pretentious in my opinion. But I did enjoy the movie. It does feature one of my favorite actors of all time, Michael Wincott, who has been in Alien Resurrection. He was in The Crow. His voice is just awesome. I can go to sleep listening to his voice, like with an ASMR video, if he had any. But I love the guy. He's just got that presence. And anything he's in, it's got my attention. I'm buying a ticket. But one thing about me, if you've been watching my channel, you know I love originality and original takes. And Jordan Peele's movies are definitely original. And this one, again, a killer cloud that happens to be, it's not a UFO, it's an organism. So again, it's an original concept. I enjoyed it. Like I said, it's shot beautifully, and it's simpler compared to Us. And again, that's why I have it at 21. Nope. And coming in at 20 is Don't Breathe, the first Fede Alvarez movie of my list. I love this director. I love what he does. Each film has a set that I feel that if I was there, I would know where to go, where things are placed, and how the landscape kind of breathes, and so to speak. Because what I love about Don't Breathe is that once the story gets going, he gives you a quick view of the entire landscape of where the movie is going to take place. You know, where things are set up and what's going to happen in that room. You get an idea and so forth. So I love how he did the movie's plot is very similar to the house is owned by a blind veteran, so again, you really don't like the protagonist now because you're taking advantage of somebody who's disabled. But as the plot progresses, you find out that this person has a lot of secrets and he's not what he seems to be. So again, I love this film. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but again, it's very claustrophobic, a lot of confined spaces, and again, it's just very gritty. And the discoveries they find, they really don't go back. There's some really kind of grotesque scenes later on with some pubic hairs that come right in front of the camera, which is pretty gross. But again, I love the twist of the film, and ultimately you're rooting for somebody to get out of this whole situation. But again, I love it, and it's a very simple film. It only takes place in one area majority of the time. But again, it's very suspenseful. You think it'd be a one-trick pony because, again, how much can you do within a confined space? But again, he does well with his movies. And again, it's a great film, and that's why I have it at number 20. Coming in at 19 is Malignant. Now, this one, again, a James Wan film, one of my new favorite directors as well. And again, what I love about his films is visually, they are beautiful to look at. It's very scenic. There's a lot of play with lights, very Italian giallo, with a lot of blasts of just red, just soaking the lens, and a lot of play with the visuals. I really do enjoy that. And the concept of this movie is fucking ridiculous. You have a woman who somehow has a twin inside her body, but it comes out through the back of her head and slowly takes possession of her and commits all these crimes in the movie. So again, this movie feels like schlock in a way. It just feels like a ridiculous concept, and I can't believe that this movie had such a major studio backing it and a major release nationwide, because it looks like one of those red box movies. If you think about it, it's such a ridiculous plot, and it really doesn't make any sense. But again, it's clever, and again, I enjoyed watching it. And again, that's one thing I do love about James Wan, is that every time he does something visually, it is breathtaking. There's a lot of unique transitions in these movies, and visually is just fun to look at. Now, each set piece has got a lot of authentic lighting and details that I appreciate. But again, this concept of just having this twin and having the actress walk backwards is completely ridiculous. But again, it's a guilty pleasure. It's fun. And again, I appreciate it. That's why I have it at number 19, Malignant. All right, coming in at 18 is Sinister, starring Ethan Hawke. And believe it or not, this movie, as a creator on many platforms, this is a movie that I could really relate to, because in the story, you have this author who wrote one book. And this book is more or less was a bestseller. He got a lot of notoriety on it. He became famous, but ever since then, he's never been able to recapture that fame, that viral, just a buzz about him. And he's struggling, and he's trying to go to the next story. So he finds out this story of a family that got killed, and there's like an 8mm film that's left behind. He finds it, and he slowly finds that this is the story. This is the one that's going to bring him back. He's got a lot of pressure to, to keep his family upright and keep everybody like financially safe. And he's got a lot on him. So again, from a creator standpoint, I get it. But the movie's great. I mean, I saw it when it came out back, 2012. It's okay. I remember at the time, the 8mm footage was incredibly disturbing at the time. It was like, ooh. I remember telling my wife at the time, hey, it's Silent Hill, right? It feels like Silent Hill's all creepy and everything like that. This is disturbing as hell. But then you watch it now, it hasn't really aged well. But again, great performances, great acting. I mean, once you see the third reel of film, you kind of get the concept of what's happening. But again, there are some moments of suspense and just, I guess, like disturbing imagery. Again, seeing families be destroyed, and it really looks authentic. It's all like in a one take sort of way. My favorite one is probably the lawnmower scene. You know what I'm talking about. But again, it's a great movie. It's a great cast. Ethan Hawke always delivers in any film that he does. So again, I enjoyed it from a creator standpoint. I could relate to it. But again, that's why I have Sinister at number 18. It's really good. Okay, coming in at 17 is Terrifier Part 1. I saw this, 3-4 years ago? No, 2018 is when I first saw it. And I have to admit, it was the very first horror movie I had seen where I actually had to turn away from the screen. We all know of the hacksaw scene, splitting somebody down the middle. That was pretty extreme at the time, because again, I hadn't seen a horror film since honestly the 80s that was that violent and that gory. And it had, in my opinion, broke a lot of rules. Especially at the end when you think Art's defeated and he takes out a gun. You're like, what the hell is this? What's going on here? So it was, again, the first introduction. That's actually the second introduction to Art the Clown. But this one was, again, it just stood out. I was actually warned by a few of my YouTuber friends that, hey, man, it's gory. Be careful. It's going to be, there's a violent scene there. It may be too disturbing for you. So, again, me being desensitized at the time, I thought I had seen everything. But again, when that scene started, it really blew me away. I couldn't believe that I was watching a major film like this on streaming that violent. So again, I really remember that first time watching it. And again, it's kind of built a legacy now. Now look, Art the Clown is arguably a new horror icon and probably the most popular of all franchises at the moment. But again, it's gaining a lot of notoriety. People love him. He's a wonderful character, and the films do get better as they come along, and we'll talk about those later. But again, Terrifier, I have it at number 17. Completely, it burns a part of my brain that I'll never forget watching that scene for the first time. So again, Terrifier, 17. Coming in at 16 is Possessor, directed by Brandon Cronenberg. And I have to say, I enjoyed this. I saw it in 2020 when it first came out. And again, I had to watch it again because I really didn't remember much other than disturbing visuals. But an agent more or less works at a secret organization, and they use brain implant technology to possess or inhabit another person's body to make them do things like kill people or kind of like make them susceptible to crimes and things of that nature, assassinations. And it stars Andrea Rosenberg, which I love in Mandy. She's right there behind me. Mandy's one of my favorite films of all time. She has a presence in the film with she can just be looking at the lens, but she's got a very capturing presence and a overall great performance in this film as a disturbed agent who's possibly gone into too many minds, and it's starting to affect her. She's become disassociated really from actually just being a human. There's a scene where she's rehearsing, "Hey honey, how was your day?" before she meets her family, because she's so disconnected from the reality of life. And I really do like that little take on it, but she's really not somebody I'm rooting for because she's just a very cold individual. But again, the movie excels in disturbing imagery, which I'm sure Brandon got from his dad. And again, very similar to the Infinity Pool, there are some segments that are left to be subjective as like an art. But again, you can see that there's one scene, without spoiling the movie, the mind she's possessing, the person is aware of what she's looking to do, and they're fighting on the spectral realm in the mental mindscape of like what's going on. So you can see them fighting to take ownership of the body, which I think is pretty cool from a visual standpoint. But again, it's got potential. It didn't really land for me the second time as much as the first time, but again, I enjoyed it, and that's why I have Possessor at 16, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else Brandon's gonna do. 16. And coming in at 15 is Smile 2. Now, I don't know what Cody was smoking, maybe some crack that day for him to give it a negative review, because I completely disagree. This movie is really good, and the actress, forget her name, Naomi Scott, I think she gave one of the best performances of the year. And honestly, I just want to take a quick time out. There's been a lot of female leads this year, from the First Omen to Terrifier 3. Of course, I haven't seen Substance yet, but I hear there's a lot of buzz around the performances there. But the ladies have been kicking ass this year, and Naomi Scott is one of them. So again, this film, I enjoyed it. I get the concept that, all the rules were set up in Smile 1, but again, now you have like a Katy Perry or Lady Gaga type of figure who's actually got that curse on them. So I kind of knew what the ending was going to be. I mean, you can see it coming a mile away, but again, her descent into madness is very convincing. I mean, again, Naomi Scott did an amazing job in convincing me anyway that she was losing her mind, and just the series of events that didn't make sense. You're starting to question, is this person really in front of them? So it's a trip, and it's a great experience, and I think it's just as good as part 1 was. Again, it's a great movie. I know they're going to make another one, especially with how it ended. But again, I absolutely love Smile 2. It was gruesome when it had to be, a lot of imaginative deaths, and it had me guessing to the end because I thought I had figured it out. No way. But again, I loved it. Cody's wrong. Again, Cody's wrong. Smile 2 was great. That's why I have it at 15. All right, coming in at 14 is Alien Romulus. Now, in my opinion, I feel this is one of the best Alien movies of the franchise. That's just me. But again, walking into the experience, and then Fede Alvarez, who is a director I love, it kind of is the same formula from Don't Breathe, but in the Alien world. But I absolutely love this film. This is actually one of the only films this year that I saw twice. I loved it that much, and I had to take my daughter to see it since she's an Alien fan. But this film is amazing, from the cinematography, the storyboarding, and again, I got chills sometimes in this movie, especially the ending finale sequence. I don't want to give it away, but in the third act, there's a big finale, and you just see an image of things that are happening. And the protagonist, who should have been Ellie, what is her name? The Kaylee Spaney? Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm saying that last name wrong, but Kaylee Spaney, she should have been Ellie, in my opinion. But anyway, she gives an amazing performance in the movie. I love how the camera doesn't pull away from some of the death scenes and some of the birth scenes. It's very organic, and it looks just like nature doing what nature does, especially things looking like a uterus or like the alien crowning. I mean, that actually looks like a birth in some cases. So again, I love that how Fede Alvarez and crew, they didn't hold back. I honestly had a lot of doubts with Disney buying the rights to Fox and I was expecting a bullshit movie, but again, this again is one of the better Alien movies in my opinion. I don't know where it ranks, but it's up there. But I absolutely enjoyed Alien Romulus. From the sound design, from the ships taking off, it felt organic, it felt real. The future, again, this is 100 years away or so, but it felt lived in. Things had been used, everything, the set design, everything, it's perfect. This movie actually should have been higher. No, I'm gonna leave it at 14, but again, Alien Romulus, fantastic movie. I'm gonna buy it when it comes out on 4K. Check it out if you haven't seen it. Alien Romulus, 14. And coming in at 13 is Longlegs, arguably one of my favorite films of the year. Anything Nick Cage does, I'm sold. I love the guy, no matter how bad or good the film is.
You're scraping at the door! Scraping at the door! Oh, fuck you!
I am always there, but this movie, it felt very simple, and I felt very retro in the sense that it kind of reminded me of a 90s episode of the X-Files. It just very matter of fact. Here are the facts. Here's the environment. There's nothing funny about it. There's no jokes about it. And again, I'm just looking here off screen for the names. Micaiah Monroe, fantastic performance. Again, on what I was saying earlier about female leads kicking ass this year, she's another one here. But again, Nick Cage is Nick Cage. And again, he just brings this creepy individual into the world. And again, you don't know what it is until the very end as far as like how his methods work, who he's working with. But again, it's very eerie. And you know, Nick Cage gave all of his performance, everything he had into this role. But again, very creepy, and I just love how simple it is. Again, I think we need more movies like this in Hollywood to come out. It doesn't have to be CGI with monsters and a big explosion at the end. It just be a simple concept and a scary concept. Less is more, in my opinion. And again, Longlegs delivered that. And again, I'm going to buy that as soon as it comes out. But again, I loved it. Nick Cage, the fucking man. Hell Satan. He said that like in 3 movies, right? No, he said that in the vampire movie, and then he said it in this movie. Yeah, I think he said it in another one. I could be wrong. Anyway, Longlegs at 13.
Hail Satan. Hail Satan!
And coming in at number 12 is Ready or Not. Again, a much better film than Abigail. And of course, what makes the movie great is Samantha Weaving. She's got this energy about her where, you know, you're just laughing along with her, but you feel like her pain as she's going through these events. But again, the movie overall is very funny. I love how the family that owns this whole, I guess, billion dollar empire. Yeah. Let me do that again. I love how this family who owns this $1 billion empire, they're just like regular people. They hate to do what they have to do, but they do it anyway. None of them are good with weapons. One guy's watching a video how to load a crossbow. So I love how they just kind of bring the craziness down to reality with these people just like, we have to do this. It's probably not real, but fuck it, we'll do it anyway. But I love how this movie is, it's a fun ride. Again, a very simple concept. A woman's getting married. She has to go through this tradition that the family has every time somebody does get married to see if she can be part of the family. Turns out it's Ready or Not, one of the most dangerous games they have to do. And there go the comeuppance and all these shenanigans. But again, a fun movie. Samantha Weaving's great, and I think they're actually making Ready or Not too. Yeah, which I don't know what they're gonna do about that. The family's dead. Maybe she took over. I don't know. But anyway, I think we said all we needed to say with Ready or Not 1, but again, I'm going to buy a ticket for part 2. Ready or Not at 12. Okay, coming in at 11, in my opinion, is Jordan Peele's best movie, which is Get Out. Again, tons of social commentary in this movie when it comes to racism. I mean, there's tons of video essays on YouTube that you can watch that have a different view of what he was trying to say, but again, I love the film. I love the tension of it. I just love it. Again, it has that Twilight Zone type of feel, but again, he brings parts of reality like racism into this world. And again, it just makes it that much more creepier. But again, in his best film, in my opinion, the acting's fantastic. And again, I have a weird connection to this as well, because when I had my mini stroke a couple months back, the feeling that I had was very similar to what the actor in the movie is feeling when that woman is stirring the tea, and you can just hear the utensil on the cup, and he can see his life going away. Again, I know I'm going off the rails here, but again, that's in a weird way how my stroke looked. So that's the first thing I thought of after I had it. But again, it just, to me now, I see it in a much more creepier way. That movie, it just feels a lot more real to me. But again, just the idea of people being able to take possession of your body, keep you in this space where you can view your life through a small window, a small television, so to speak, and they now own you. They own your conscious, they own everything. That is creepy. And again, a lot of social commentary in that, dealing with racism, which again is still prominent here in the US. I'm pretty sure all over the world as well. But again, his best film from a narrative standpoint. I love the screenplay, I love the acting, I love the story. And again, his best film. So again, that's why I have Get Out at number 11. Now we go to the top 10. Now, before we get to the top 10, I want to tell everybody, if you haven't done so, please. Do you hear that? Anyway, here we go. Before we get to the top 10, if you haven't done so already, please do me a solid and hit the subscribe button down below. It would mean the world to me. Like the video if you haven't done so already, and put some comments. What do you think about the rankings so far? You enjoying yourself? If you are, the least you can do is hit the subscribe button. Do it now. Now let's continue on with the review. Okay, coming in at number 10, top 10 here, is Terrifier 3, the latest in the Damien Leone Terrifier series. And this film really had me question my psyche here, because, spoilers by the way, if you haven't seen it by now, I'm just going to spoil one scene. There's a scene in the movie where Art the Clown is dressed as Santa in a mall, and he's handing out gifts to kids. I'm talking kids from 5 years old, no older than 10. And he's handing these gifts out. He leaves, and one of the kids opens a gift that is a bomb. And the bomb explodes, and all the kids are dead in pieces. And I am laughing hysterically at this moment. What the fuck is wrong with me? But these movies, again, it feels like he comes up with the death scenes and the more or less the set pieces and kind of builds a story around it. And I really don't expect a lot of story when it comes to the Terrifier movies. There are what they are. I mean, they're like geek shows or freak fest. But again, that's what makes them so appealing. There's an audience for that. But again, this, in my opinion, is one of the best films. It's not the number one yet, or the ranking. If I were to rank them, this is not the number one yet. That one is still coming up. But as far as the lore and giving more of a explanation of who Art is and who Lauren is, I forget her character's name, Sierra or Sienna, one of those. But again, giving more background of who she actually is. You're starting to find out there's like the force, the good and the evil. There's demonic and angelic. So everything's starting to make sense. And I'm looking forward to the next film, which I believe is going to be like a Dante's Inferno sort of thing, especially with the book that lady was reading at the end and that one person now in that world. But again, gore is off the charts. I mean, seeing a guy nude and having a chainsaw shoved up his ass is got to be something that you can't forget. But believe it or not, there's still more grotesque murders that I feel in part 2. Anyway, but I enjoy Terrifier 3. I'm wondering how part 4 is going to do when they make it. But again, I loved it. Great character development, great set pieces. Art the Clown is just hilarious. He has you laughing and wincing within like 5 minutes or less. So again, fantastic movie, fantastic performances. Lauren is amazing as a leading lady. She kicks ass. And I'm looking forward to seeing what else she does. And Damien Leone, maybe he can do another movie series after this. I don't know. But again, Art the Clown is now an icon when it comes to horror. And I enjoyed it. Will I see it again? Probably not for a while. But I will check it out. But again, Terrifier 3 is at number 10. Now coming in at number 9 is Ouija Origin of Evil. I had no idea that this was a Mike Flanagan movie. As a matter of fact, I saw it for the first time this past, 2 months ago? I have my notes, so I'm just going to refer to them real quick on this video. Again, directed by Mike Flanagan. I had no idea. And I love the details he has. This is supposed to feel like a 70s movie. So the title card that comes in, you kind of see the copyright date listed below. You have the cigarette burns that come out throughout the movie with depending on the change of scene. And again, it's well acted. I love how the daughter and the mother have this hustle when it comes to being psychics, but eventually real elements come into play and it's no longer a hustle, it's actually real events. So again, I love that change in their world, and it's a great introduction to the characters. You know exactly why they're doing this and where they're coming from and their motivations. But again, a lot of great jump scares that are done right. Again, and Mike Flanagan, you can't do wrong. And I'm really excited what he's going to do with the Exorcist movie that's coming out. Because again, there's not one thing, aside from the Midnight Club Society that he did on Netflix, everything he's done, I've loved. he's a fantastic director. He gets it. He brings the soul into the movie, and you feel the presence of like real characters in this movie, unlike some other horror movies. So again, I loved it. He's a fantastic director. And again, Ouija, again, never saw it before. I hear part 1 sucks and I'll never see it, but this one, I hear the sequel's better than the original. And I loved it. That's why it's so high at number 9. Ouija, Origin of Evil. Don't play with those, by the way. Us in the Hispanic community don't fuck around with those things. They're never allowed in our houses, but a lot of you white people tend to play with this. So don't do that. You're just inviting shit to your house. So again, don't do that. Get rid of it. All right, coming in at number 8 is The Exorcism of Emily Rose. Now, I saw this back when it came out in 2005, and I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was memorable. I just said, it was all right, and just went about my life. But I saw it again a couple weeks back, and I have to admit, it aged better for me. I don't know what happened, but just the overall delivery of the topic. Again, it's about a young woman who becomes possessed, and she dies during the exorcism. And there's now a trial. The pastor, the father, the padre, who oversaw the whole proceedings, is now being convicted of murder. And I really enjoy how it's, again, just a matter of fact, and it presents both sides of the argument in a realistic way. And one thing I took for granted, I guess, that I didn't see when I was younger was the acting. Again, Lauren Lindley, Tom Wilkinson, Campbell Scott, he's great. Jennifer Carpenter, who had to make all these contortionist type of moves for the portrayal of the exorcism. Everything, even Kenneth Welsh, everybody's top tier when it comes to acting. So again, and it just landed for me more as an adult. Again, just knowing how it ended, I guess forgot how Emily's life ended, and hearing that again as an adult, it just landed for me more. But again, it does present an event which, again, on the supernatural plane, I know there's many people that would have questions or maybe question its authenticity. But again, I love how, the state and the prosecution, everybody's delivering a case as a matter of fact for what it is. It's very realistic, well acted, and again, very chilling at times, but also very sad in a way. So again, this film aged beautifully for me as far as the delivery of the story and the facts of the case. And that is why I have it in my top 10, number 8, The Exorcism of Emily Rose. A really good movie. I wonder what Brian had it at. I bet it's high. Probably his top 3. I'm calling it now. Coming in at number 7 is Ari Aster's follow-up to Hereditary, which is Midsommar. I love this movie. I love everything about it. And I love the attention to detail with it. But more or less, this film is a breakup movie. It's about a relationship that really it should have been over years ago, but because of a tragic accident, what's her face's name? Florence Pugh's character suffers at the very beginning of the movie. This guy feels kind of like compelled to stay with her because you can't leave her when she's going through something so bad. So it's this prolonged relationship that should have been over years ago. But again, it's a breakup movie set in this fairy tale land. And I do love Florence Pugh's performance in this movie. I love how her character more or less has never had a family that's connected with her or felt the pain that she's felt. She wants her boyfriend, this guy, to feel the pain that she's going through, this loss, and she's never felt part of a unit, even his friend circle. She feels like an outsider, and ultimately in this story, she's identified to be, I guess, a candidate for this family, these Midsommar individuals who live in North Europe, Swedish people, there you go. And she's ultimately accepted as one of their own, and these people tend to feel what she feels. Everybody feels the same emotion, and that's all she ever wanted in her life, and she finally gets that at the end. How she gets there, again, there's a lot of questions. Do I think her boyfriend is a horrible guy to deserve to be put in a bear suit and burned alive while he being paralyzed? No, I don't think that. That's a little excessive, but I get the character building of the story. I get his place and usage in the story and what he's supposed to do and fulfill. But it's a wonderful movie, and I love the attention to detail. If you look at the walls, there's all this types of drawings and just more or less storyboards of the movie that kind of foretell what's going to happen that come about on screen. So again, it's a very creepy movie. It's not as intense as Hereditary. We'll talk about that later. But again, I enjoyed Midsommar. I've got to see the director's cut because I understand there's 30 more minutes. But again, Midsommar I have coming in at number 7. Coming in at number 6 is Pearl, directed by Ty West and Mia Goth. And again, I love this movie. I love the unique angle it takes. Well, hey, let's make a killer movie, but let's set it in the golden era of Hollywood, where it looks like The Wizard of Oz. And I'd say a unique take from the score, from the font introduction, the title sequence. I love that angle. Mia Goth gives an amazing performance. Again, I love the range that she can do from just this peaceful young girl into insane lunatic. I mean, there's that one take sequence where she is rambling to her cousin about all the things she's done wrong, and the camera just holds on her the entire time. It's in a very intense scene, and you as the audience member are thinking about what her cousin is thinking about, listening to all this insane details of what she's done. I love that pig at the beginning that they bring over as a offering or a gift is more or less rotting away, and it's more or less a metaphor to her psyche and how she's just spiraling down into this lunacy. But again, I love the production of it. I love the costumes of it. I love that dance sequence where she's auditioning for that one play. But again, it's a wonderful film, very gory at times and very, I guess, creepy at the end as well, where she has her mom and dad at the table and her husband arrives and she's just looking right at the camera smiling. I think that whole segment goes for like an entire minute. But again, it just shows the range and just the talent that Mia Goth has. And again, with her and Ty West together, they do great things. But again, I loved Pearl. That's why I have it at number 6. Now we're going to the top 5. Coming in at number 5 is Smile. Again, I know this came out a couple years ago and it kind of surprised everybody with how great it was. And again, since I love psychological horror like Silent Hill, I love the fact that this movie more or less is just manifestation of your trauma, whatever that may be. And it just toys with you for a certain amount of days before it ultimately consumes you. And that's just, it does a lot to my lizard brain up here. I love that. The concept seems kind of generic if you think about it. You really don't expect a lot from it. But again, there's a lot of twists and just sequences in this movie, like a cat in the gift. That was pretty insane. But again, I love how it just toys with the person, the protagonist, and just has them descend into madness. A great movie. It keeps you guessing on what's happening and what's reality versus fantasy. But again, just the idea of trauma, being able to be in this manifested being, whatever that is, whatever you see, and it just toys with you and tortures you until ultimately it ends you. I think that's a wonderful concept. And again, I love Smile. It's a great movie. I love part 2 as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing other ones. So again, that's why I have Smile at number 5. Coming in at number 4 is Oculus. And I want to take my time with this particular one because Mike Flanagan, again, is one of my favorite directors right now. I've said that like, I don't know, 4 times in this video already. But again, Dr. Sleep is one of my favorites. But again, this one I think is ranked very high. I think this is, let me check my list. Yeah, this is my highest ranked Mike Flanagan movie on this list. If Dr. Sleep was here, that would probably be number 1. But again, what I love about horror is a couple things. I've mentioned psychological horror, right? And this movie has a big factor, a big place in that. But also the other element that always gets me, I guess it started with The Shining, is when a family turns on itself. And this movie is, to me, is incredibly tragic, and it kind of stayed with me after a few days, especially with the ending being the way it is. But you have a young family, everything's going great. You have 2 siblings, a sister and a brother, and a husband and wife. They get this mirror, and this mirror seems to be toying with the husband. The husband starts to do some things that are just outside of his character. And that relationship with his wife suddenly is just destroyed. Everybody goes insane. And again, you see the whole event, everything that's taking place from the perspective of these 2 kids. And again, I'm very protective when it comes to kids. So again, that's why it was really tough for me to sit through. But again, those flashback sequences were amazing. I think the screenplay on this movie, just how it transitions from past to present, is one of the best out of these 31 movies. You can tell this took time, planning, and care to tell this type of story. And for the kids to grow up and try to defeat this mirror, and they have everything planned. You have the one brother who spent all of his life more or less in a psychiatric ward, but then you have the sister who's like, it did happen. You have to acknowledge that, and we're going to defeat it this time because I have all these cameras, I have all these sequences and check-in points. We're going to get it. And to see that plan, as smart as it is, to fall apart. And then for her, spoilers again, should I spoil it? But I'm not going to spoil it, but it ends so tragically. My heart goes out to one of the characters in this movie, because again, you're rooting for them because these are just innocent kids who went through something horrible, to see their parents more or less crumble and kill each other. And it's just them. And as adults, they've had a rough life, and it doesn't end on a happy note. But again, I love the transitions from the past to the present. It all takes place. It appears in camera in this movie. And again, that's what I love about Mike Flanagan. That series, The House on Haunted Hill, that's amazing as well, from transitioning from the past to present. He is an amazing storyteller. His crew, everybody involved, I love how they bring the emotion of empathy out of me when I'm watching his movies. Other than like Terrifier, for example, there's no empathy for me. I'm laughing at people getting killed because it's a different type of horror film. But with Mike Flanagan films, I feel the people, I feel their pain, and I feel bad for them when things don't go right. And that's a big difference. It's two different directors, but again, I appreciate them both, but I lean more toward Mike Flanagan. So again, Oculus, believe it or not, I've seen it 3 times, but it takes something out of me to sit down and watch it. It's a tough movie. Again, I'm very protective with families. The Witch is another movie where families turn on each other. The Shining. So again, that element, this place that you feel the safest, where you're supposed to feel safe, is turned on you. That's something that it does something to me. But again, Oculus is an amazing movie. I don't think people talk about it as much as they should, and that's why I have it at number 4. It is an amazing movie. And now we're at the top 3. And again, if you haven't done so already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Really excited about these next 3, and I hope you've enjoyed this video so far. I love doing this. I love Halloween. I love being part of this group. Like, these guys are really good friends of mine, for the exception of CP. But again, I love them, and I'm very excited. I just want to take a moment to let everybody know I'm really excited about this. I love doing this, and I'm having fun. Thanks, Cody, Sean, everybody, for allowing me to be part of your cool circle, hang out with you at lunch. But again, I just want to take a moment to thank them and to thank you for watching. And now on to the top 3. Coming in at number 3 is Terrifier 2. Why is that so high? I'm going to explain. I've seen All Hallows Eve, I've seen Terrifier 1, and I remember the excitement of Terrifier 2. There was this atmosphere about seeing this movie. It was a low-budget movie, it had limited screens, but yet me and my son, who was 16 at the time, I was excited to see what they were going to do with a little bit more money. It was a low-budget movie, and you knew it was going to be gory. And the evolution, everything just looked so much better when the film started and the gore delivered. But having seen all 3, I feel, this is my opinion, that the bedroom scene in part 2 still holds up as the most intense, difficult, gory scene I've ever seen in horror movies. I dread watching that. I think Cody did a watch along a couple years back, and you can see our reaction. That's the last time I've seen it. I have no desire to revisit the movie, but because it's just so brutal. And again, to see a family, especially the mother of Sienna, and her brother get her head shot off with a shotgun. To me, part 2 is way more brutal than part 3. Part 3 seems like it found its voice and it's having more fun, and you can tell with the audience reactions without them laughing. Part 2 felt brutal. And I recall being in the theater where people were like, ooh, and awing, and just making all these noises when that bedroom scene was going on. But that stopped and everyone just got quiet. All you heard was, ugh, I can't look. It got quiet. All that energy just went away. Again, I have no intention to revisit it, but part 2 is really long. I know that's been a criticism with a lot of people, but I think it works for me. I mean, it doesn't feel like it's dragging in any way. I mean, we're introducing new characters, a little bit of lore on where Lauren's character is coming from, and a little bit of where Art the Clown, where he's stemming from. So I enjoyed it. The kills, again, are amazing. The sequence at the end left a lot of questions that they answered a majority of in part 3. But again, I just love the visualization of Sienna. I hope I'm saying, is it Sienna or Sierra? Let me check. Sienna. I just love the visual of Sienna in that armor as an angelic warrior versus a demon. I love, there's one shot of Art just kind of whipping her like Jesus, with using that whip, and if feathers are flying all over the place. I love that symbolism of what they're going for. But it's an amazing movie, and it's a testament of word of mouth. It's a testament of what audience wants. There is a small group, of me included, who want these types of movies, and when done right and with care and with great performances, we reward them with great box office. And again, I'm very happy for Damien Leone, Lauren, and everybody. David Howard Thornton. I have to look at the screen because I'm bad at names. So I have my ADHD. But I'm happy for everybody in this film, and I wish them much more success with other projects. And I'm looking forward to part 4. But again, Terrifier 2, in my opinion, is still the most brutal of the 3. And I don't see myself planning to revisit it anytime soon because it's that hard to sit through and watch. So again, there you go. Terrifier 2 is at number 3. Numero 3. Coming in at number 2, and this was really hard. I had 1 and 2 kind of fluctuating back and forth, but number 2 is X. Why? Because I love sex and I love violence in horror movies, and this delivered well. Again, this is the first movie in the Mia Goth trilogy, and again, it had a retro type of look. You're watching it, and everybody started already placing, hey, it's just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's just like this or that. But again, it had more story to it. And again, just an originality in a sense where you had a killer in an older woman and an older couple, really, but it's really the woman. And just when you see that she sees herself in a young Mia Goth, and the fact that Mia Goth played the old woman and herself, again, is a testament to how wonderfully talented she is. And again, she is right now my favorite leading lady, and I can't wait to see whatever else she does. She's that good. But the violence in the movie is fantastic, and again, and it's done in a stylistic way. I also, what's her name? Selena Gomez? No, the other one. The other one. Oh, fuck, what's her name? Jenna Ortega. She's great in it too. There is just a lot of brutal violence in this film, deaths that you don't see coming that happen. Alligators. So again, I don't want to give too much away if you haven't seen it, but this is the only film, believe it or not, that when it was over, I loved the way it ended because they find a canister of film and that one deputy asks the sheriff, like, what do you think's on there? One fucked up horror movie. And then it ends, perfect ending. I was the only one in the theater who stood up and gave the movie a standing ovation. And that's the only movie out of these 31 that we just went over that I gave a standing ovation with because it delivered everything I wanted. Very thematic when it comes to the 70s, a slasher movie, but again, throwing in a porn movie involved in that. With sex, great sequences, and then more sex. It was like I was a happy man, and that's why I have X at number 2. And coming in at number 1 on my third appearance of 31 on 31 Halloween edition is Hereditary. Story time. Sit back. I want everybody to sit back. This film was honestly one of the first films I'd seen in a long time. This is 2018 when it came out, and I remember I was on a date with somebody, and towards the end she tells me, you're hurting my hand. And I didn't realize this, but I was squeezing her hand so hard that I was hurting her because of the last final sequence. It was terrifying. I think I posted on Facebook saying that I think I need to go to church and say some prayers because I feel like this evil presence around me. But it had been a long time for a film to creep me out in that way. The imagery was incredibly disturbing. And again, like I said earlier, there's something about a family turning in on itself and attacking one another, and hearing that young actor say, Mama, please stop, as Toni Collette was more or less possessed. Again, that did something to my lizard brain. It really just strikes a chord in me when I see things that are that dire and that hopeless. And it's a crime that Toni Collette didn't get nominated for Best Actress for an Oscar that year. That's a fucking robbery. Toni Collette, I can only imagine from an actor standpoint to have to deliver that type of emotional performance on each take. Imagine doing 30 takes of that dinner table scene. I mean, she delivered, and she's an amazing actress. And again, she's one of my favorite things about this movie. But there's also another actor. Hold on. The father, Gabriel Bryan. I hope I'm saying that right. God damn it. But he played Satan in that one Schwarzenegger movie. His character, Steve, the dad in this whole ordeal, it breaks my heart to see. There's this one scene he's at a red light and just starts crying because he's seeing his family deteriorate. And any father who is in that situation, who is helpless to do anything, I think can relate. But what I love about the film is that it takes mental health, hereditary mental health, like schizophrenia, paranoids, anything that you can get from a gene from your family, and it touches on that as a core theme of the movie, but it just enhances it with witchery, cults and things of that nature. And just to hear Toni Collette on that group therapy session talking about everything that she, her brother, and her mom had gone through, it just brings a humane or a human element into the story. Because again, mental disease, mental health is a real item, and there's families out there that are suffering. So when you take that element and add the supernatural element into it, it just makes it much more real, in my opinion, and relatable. And again, the movie is really tough to watch. I love how things are hidden in shadow. I love how with that last sequence before things go down, that one young actor wakes up in his bed and everyone thinks they see something up in the upper right left-hand corner, and the light slowly adjusts, and then before you know it, you understand that's Toni Collette's mom on the wall. That scene to this day creeps me out. And I love the direction. Again, Ari Aster's an amazing director, because I love, for most of the film, the camera's more or less stationary. It stands from corner to corner and looking at from room to room. But when that seance that Toni Collette does with her husband and son, after that, the camera goes through walls. It's kind of like this presence, whatever they summoned, is now looking at them through that dollhouse that we see at the beginning. So the perspective changes while looking at the family go through this whole ordeal. So I didn't notice that until my third viewing for this 31 on 31. But again, this film, it really creeped me out, and not many films do. Again, there's gore like in Terrifier where it can gross you out and it's tough to sit through, but to actually scare me and creep me out, to keep something in my head and thinking about it, that takes something special. And that is why I have Hereditary at number 1. Well, Doyle rules. Well, that does it for my 31 and 31 ranking for The New Breed. All of these directors, I'm excited to see what they hold in store for us in the future as far as terror comes along. And again, to each and every one of you who are watching, happy Halloween. Enjoy your evening with your kids. And until... Hello?
Okay. I told you. You were the only one. It's over. Now it's just me and you. I love you.
Love you too.
Two hearts entwined, bonded by love and a cinematic mind. They love late night horror, shadows and chills, especially Abigail with its haunting thrills. But there was Rudy, a creep online with a taste for heroes and big budget crime. Called Abigail trash, a smug review. Praise Justice League, Sex Night came through. Oh, Cody and CB, lovers so bold, did what they had to. The story unfolds.